Hello Mark, I'm Jason, 49 from A class. Now I'm going to speak the article this week. Now let's begin. TED, watch, read, attend, participate, about, search, login, sign up. Subtitles and transcript. Stephen Wise, chimps have feelings and thoughts. They should also have rights. I'd like to have you look at this pencil. It's a thing, it's a legal thing. And so are books you might have or the cars you own. They're all legal things. The grab apps that you see behind me, they are two legal things. Now I can do that to a legal thing. I can do whatever I want to do my book or my car. These grab apps you'll see, the photographs are taken by the man named James Morrison who wrote a book called James and Other Apes. And he tells in his book how every single land, almost every one of them, is an orphan who saw his mother and the father die before his eyes. They are legal things. So for centuries, there's been a great legal war that separates the legal things from legal persons. On one hand, legal things are visible to judge. They don't count in law. They don't have any legal rights. They don't have the capacity for legal rights. They are slaves. On the other side of the legal world were the legal person. Legal persons are very visible to judge. They count in law. They may have many rights. They have the capacity for an infinite number of rights, and they are the masters. Right now, all non-human animals are legal things. All human beings are legal persons. But being human and being a legal person has never been and is not today is synonymous with a legal person. Humans and a legal person are not synonymous. On the one side, there have been many human beings over the century who have been the legal things. Slaves were legal things. Women, children, and were sometimes legal things. Indeed, a great deal of civil rights struggle over the last century has been to punch a hole through that wall and begin to feed these women things through the wall and have them become legal person. But alas, that hole has closed up. Now, on the other side are legal person, but they have been left never only being limited to human beings. There were, for example, there are many legal persons who have not even alive. In the United States, we were aware of the fact that corporations are legal persons. In pre-independence India, the Kurd held that the Hindu idol was a legal person, that a mosque was a legal person. In 2000, the India Supreme Court held that holy books of skin religion was a legal person. And in 2012, just recently, there was a treaty between the indigenous people of New Zealand and the Crown in which it was agreed that a river was a legal person who owned his own riverbed. Now, I read Peter Singer's book in the 1980s when I have a full head of lush brown hair and India was moved by it. Because I had become a lawyer, because I wanted to speak for the voiceless, defend the defenseless. And I never realized how voiceless and defenseless the billions of non-human animals are. And I began to work as an animal protection lawyer. And by 1985, I realized that I was trying to accomplish something that was literally impossible. The reason being that all of my crimes, all of the animals whose interests I always try to defend, were legal things. They were invisible. It was not going to work. So I decided that the only thing that was going to work was they had at least some of them had to also be moved through the hole that could open again in that world and begin filling an appropriate the non-human animals through that hole onto the other side of being legal person. Now, at that time, there was a very little known about or spoken about truly animal rights, about the idea of having legal personhood or legal rights for the non-human animal. And I knew it was going to take a long time, and so in 1985, I figured that it would take about 30 years before I'd be able to even begin a strategy litigation, long-term campaign, in order to be able to punch another hole through that hole that wall. It turned out I was pessimistic that it only took 28. So what we have to do in order to begin was not only to write a law review articles and teach classes, write books, but we have to then begin to get down the nuts and bolts of how you litigate that kind of case. So one of the first things we needed to do was figure out what a cause of action was, a legal cause of action. A legal cause of action is a vehicle that lawyers use to put their argument in the form of courts. In turns out there was a very interesting case that had occurred almost 250 years ago in London called Somerset versus Stewart, whereby a black slave had used the legal system and moved from a legal thing to a legal person. I was so interested in it that I eventually wrote an entire book about it. James Somerset was an 8-year-old boy who, when he was kidnapped from West Africa, he survived the Middle Passage and he was sold to the Scottish businessman Charles Stewart in Virginia. Now, 20 years later, Stewart brought James Somerset to London, and after he got there, James decided he was going to escape. And so one of the first things he did was to get himself baptized because he wanted to get a set of godfathers. Because to an 18th century slave, they knew that one of the major responsibilities of godfather was to help you escape. And so in the fall of the 1771, James Somerset has a confrontation with Charles Stewart. We don't know exactly what happened, but then James dropped out of sight. An enraged Charles Stewart then hired slave catcher to convey the city of London, find him, bring him not back to Charles Stewart but to a ship at the Anne and Mary that was floating in the London harbor, and he was chained to the deck, and the ship was to set sail for Jamaica when James was to be sold in the slave market and be doomed to the 3 to 5 years of life that a slave had harvesting sugar cane in Jamaica. Marquis, now James godfather swung into action. They approached the most powerful judge, Lord Bransfield, who was chief judge of Court of King's Bench, and they demanded that he issue a common law writ of habeas corpus on the behalf of the James Somerset. Now, the common law is the kind of law that English-speaking judges can make when they were not competing in by the statute and the Constitution. And the writ of habeas corpus is called the Great Writ, capital G, capital W, and it means to protect any of us who are detained against our will. A writ of habeas corpus is issued. The detainer is required to bring the detainee in and give the legally sufficient reason for depriving him of his bodily liberty. Roe Fansfield has made the decision right off the bat, because if James Somerset was a legal thing, he was not eligible for a writ of habeas corpus, only if he could be the legal person. So Roe Mansfield decided that he would assume without deciding that James Somerset was indeed a legal person, and he issued the writ of habeas corpus, and James' body was brought in by the captain of the ship. There was a series hearings over the next 6 months. On June 22nd, 1772, Mansfield said that slavery was so odious, and he used the word odious that the common laws were not supposed it. And he ordered James free, and that moment James Somerset underwent a legal transubstantiation. The free man who walked out of the courtroom looked exactly like a slave who had walked in, but as far as the law was concerned, they had nothing whatever in common. The next thing we did is that non-human rights project, which I find it, then began to look at what kind of values and principles do we want to put before the judge, and what values and principles do they imbibe with their mother's milk where they are taught in the law school, do they use every day, do they believe with all their hearts, and we choose liberty and equality. Now, liberty right is the kind of right to which you entitled because of how you put together, and the fundamental liberty right projects a fundamental interest, and the supreme interest in the common law are the rights to autonomy and self-determination. So they were so powerful that in a common law country, if you go to the hospital and you refuse life-saving medical treatment, the church will not only force upon you. The church will not only force upon you, because they will respect your self-determination and your autonomy. Now, equality rights is the kind of right to which entitled because resemble someone else in a relevant way, and there's a relevant way. So, if you are land because they have a right, you like land, you title to a right. Now, counts and legislatures draw lines all the time. Some are included, some are excluded. But you have to, at a bare minimum, you must. The line have to be a reasonable means to be the legitimate end. The non-human rights projects argue that drawing a line in order to enslave an autonomous and self-determining being like you will see behind me, there's a violation of equality. We then search through 80 jurisdictions. It took us 7 years to find a jurisdiction where we wanted to begin filing our first suit. We choose the state of New York, and we decided upon who our plaintiffs are going to be. We decided upon chimpanzee, not just because Jane Goodall was on our board of directors, but because Jane and others have studied chimpanzee intensively for decades. We know the extraordinary cognitive capabilities they have, and they are also resemble the kind that human beings have. And so we choose chimpanzees, and we began to canvass the world to find the expert in chimpanzee connection. We find them in Japan, Sweden, Germany, Scotland, England, and the United States, and amongst them, they wrote 100 pages of affidavits in which they set out more than 40 ways in which their complex connected capability in neither individually or together, all adapt up to autonomy and self-determination. Now, this included, for example, that they were conscious, but they were also conscious that they were conscious, and they know they have a mind. They know that others had minds. They know they were individual and that they can live. They understand that they lived yesterday and they will live tomorrow. They engage in a mental time travel. They remember what happened yesterday. They can anticipate tomorrow, which is why it's so terrible to imprison a chimpanzee, especially alone. It's a thing that we do to do our worst criminals, and we do that to chimpanzee without even thinking about it. They have some kind of moral capacity. When they play economic games with human beings, they will spontaneously make fair offers, even when they were not equally required to do so. They are numerate. They understand numbers. They can do some simple math. They can engage in language or to state out of the language words. They were involved in intentional and referential communication, in which they pay attention to the attitudes of those with whom they were speaking. They have culture. They have a material culture, a social culture. They have a symbolic culture. Scientists in the Thai forest in the Ivory Coast find chimpanzees we were using these rods to smash open the incredibly hard holes of nerves. It takes a long time to learn how to do that, and that is cavitated the area, and they find this material culture, the way of doing it. And these rocks has passed down for at least 4,300 years through the 225 chimpanzee generations. So now we needed to find our chimpanzee. First we find two of them in the state of New York, and both of them will die before we could even get our suit filed. Then we find Tommy. Tommy is a chimpanzee. You see him behind me. Tommy was a chimpanzee. We find him in the leg cage. We find him in a small room was filled with cages in a large warehouse structure on the used chariot lot in the central New York. We find Kiko, who is partially deaf. Kiko was in the back of the salesman storefront in the western Massachusetts. And we find Hercules and Leo. They are two young male chimpanzees who are being used for biomedical and anatomical research at Stony Brook. We find them. And so on the last week of December 2013, the non-human right project filed 3 suits all across the state of New York using the same common laws with of habeas corpus argument that have been used with the German Somerset. And we demand that judge issue this common law with of habeas corpus. We wanting the chimpanzees out, and we wanting them brought to save the chimps. Tremendous chimpanzees sanctuary in South Florida, which involves an artificial lake with 12 or 13 islands. There were 2 or 3 acres where the 2,000 chimpanzees live on each of them, and these chimpanzees would then live a life of a chimpanzee with other chimpanzees in an environment that was as close to the Africa as possible. Now all these cases are still going on, and we have not yet run into our romance field. We shall. And this is a long-term strategy litigation campaign, and we shall. And to quote Winston Churchill, the way we view our cases is that they are not the end. They were not the beginning of the end, but they are perhaps the end of the beginning. Thank you for listening.